The cold metal cabinet glinted with an eerie blue hue under the basement lights. I squatted at the back of the third row, my fingertips just brushing the gilded cover of a Bible when a faint rustling sound emanated from the cardboard box beneath it. It couldn't be a mouse. My adoptive parents, Ilana and Marcus, had never allowed any rodents to live in this Victorian mansion on the outskirts of Portland, just as they'd meticulously maintained their perfect family for 20 years, tolerating no flaws whatsoever. I'm Lila Ventura, supposedly an orphan adopted by the Venturas from Guatemala. Until 3 minutes ago, I'd believed I was their only child. The box was tightly sealed with tape. As I slit it open with a utility knife, a mixture of sandalwood and moldy odor wafted out. Inside, there were no photos or toys, only a stack of yellowed documents and a dark red brocade box. On top was an adoption record from the Oregon Department of Human Services, listing my date of birth as November 17, 1999. But the attached medical report read, adoptee in good health, birth chart compatibility 98%. Birth chart? A sharp, icy tingle shot up my fingers, spreading to my heart. Trembling, I flipped to the next page. A handwritten Chinese contract stared back at me, with words like ghost marriage, match, and life extension, piercing my eyes like poisoned needles. Signed at the bottom were Ilana and Marcus's names, dated December 3, 1999, barely half a month after I was adopted. Blood rushed to my head, then drained away, leaving me icy cold. I clung to the metal cabinet to stay upright, my teeth chattering uncontrollably, my breath tasting of iron. When I opened the brocade box, I nearly choked. Inside lay a lock of black hair tied with a red string, a rusted men's ring, and a plastic-sealed black and white photo. The boy in the picture was around 16 or 17, with features 70% similar to Marcus's. His smile in an American football jersey looked eerie, as if he were staring straight at me through the paper. My stomach churned violently. I clamped a hand over my mouth to hold back the nausea, my back soaked in cold sweat that clung to my clothes like a frigid second skin. This wasn't a dream. The black and white contract and the outdated relics screamed a cruel truth. Lila? What are you doing down there? Ilana's voice drifted down the stairs, soft as honey laced with poison, making my hair stand on end. I fumbled to close the brocade box, covering the documents tightly with the Bible. As I stood up, my knee collided with the metal cabinet with a dull thud, echoing loudly in the silent basement. Nothing, Mom, I just wanted to find an old book to read. My voice trembled so violently that even I could hear the lie. Ilana stood at the door, the shadow of her beige sweater deepening the darkness in her smiling eyes. It's damp down here. Come up quickly. Her gaze swept over the cabinet behind me, pricking my back like needles, as if she'd already seen through my panic. I stumbled up the stairs, my legs unsteady. All the little things I'd dismissed as overprotectiveness suddenly wove together into an airtight net, trapping me. They'd never let me stay out late, even during high school evening study sessions. Marcus would show up at the school gate promptly, claiming to worry about safety, but then interrogate me relentlessly about my classmates in the car. They'd forbidden me from having male friends. When I received a love letter from a boy in 10th grade, Ilana burned it in front of me, her eyes cold as she said, "You're too young for this." On my 18th birthday, Ilana had personally put a silver necklace around my neck, saying it would protect me and bring me peace. I'd thought it was just an outdated design, but now, under the light, I saw it wasn't a peace charm at all, it was a distorted character for marriage. Even more bizarre was their rigid control over my diet and schedule. Every day, Ilana forced me to drink a bowl of unknown brown herbal soup, claiming it would nourish my health. It tasted bitter and unpleasant, and when I'd protested a few times, she'd brushed me off with, "It's for your own good." Marcus would take me for comprehensive physical exams regularly, but the tests were always strange, never checking my eyesight or hearing, but repeatedly drawing blood and recording my temperature and pulse. Now I realized those weren't exams at all, they were monitoring my fate energy. They'd even forbidden me from cutting my hair short. Every year, Ilana would trim it herself, carefully storing the cut strands in a wooden box. Back then, I'd thought it was just her quirk, but now I understood. They were all offerings needed for the ghost marriage ritual. Once back in my room, I locked the door and slid down to the floor, leaning against the door panel. From my pocket, I pulled out the contract addendum I'd secretly tucked away. Typed in English were the boy's details: Ethan Ventura, born June 21, 1983, accidentally drowned, on October 30, 1999, less than a month before I was adopted. A quick search online yielded little, only a 1999 local news article titled, "Star High School Football Player Dies in Tragic Drowning," stating that he'd gone swimming alone in the Willamette River after practice and never returned. A 2000 forum post sent chills down my spine. Wealthy Portland man adopts foreign baby girl after son's death, suspected ghost marriage. 20 years of tender affection had been a complete lie. They hadn't adopted me out of love or compassion, only because my birth chart matched Ethan's, making me suitable to be his ghost bride, to bring their family good fortune. I'd been a carefully raised sacrifice, kept in the dark for 2 decades, waiting for the day I'd reach adulthood and be fully offered up. "Lila, dinner's ready." Marcus's knock carried an unspoken scrutiny. I hastily hid the documents under my mattress and opened the door. He stared straight into my eyes. "Did you touch anything in the basement?" "Only the Bible," I lied, forcing calm as my fingers clenched white behind my back. At the dinner table, Ilana had made my favorite baked salmon, but the food I'd once loved now turned my stomach. Marcus suddenly said, "Next weekend is Ethan's death anniversary. We'll go to church for a Massachusetts." It was the first time they'd ever mentioned Ethan. Ilana's eyes reddened as she added, "Your brother was wonderful. He would have loved you if he were alive." I gripped my knife and fork tightly, my knuckles white. I knew this mass wasn't for mourning, it was to strengthen the ghost marriage bond. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I uncovered an even more terrifying truth online. A ghost marriage required a formal ceremony once the bride reached adulthood, involving wearing the deceased's personal items and offering hair and nail clippings. Once bound, the bride's fate would be permanently tied to the deceased's. Any attempt to back out would bring sudden disaster, minor illnesses at best, sudden death at worst. I stared at the words on the screen, my blood turning to ice. They hadn't just wanted to steal my life, they'd wanted to trap me in this cursed bond forever. I began secretly planning my escape. On Friday night, Marcus left on a business trip, saying it was an emergency that would last 2 days. It was my only chance. On Saturday morning, I watched Ilana drive away, then raced back to my room, slinging on a backpack I'd packed in advance, filled with my passport, a small amount of cash, and the contract addendum. I didn't take the front door. Instead, I climbed out the second-floor window, clinging to the windowsill before jumping down. My ankle twisted with a sharp, searing pain, but I didn't dare stop, limping frantically toward the neighborhood entrance, fearing Ilana would catch up at any moment. It was hard to hail a taxi outside the community. I hid behind a tree, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear. Every sound made me jump, thinking it was Ilana. After 10 minutes, a taxi finally pulled up. I practically threw myself into the back seat, blurting out the name of a secluded hotel downtown. During the ride, I stared frantically at the rearview mirror, only breathing a shaky sigh of relief when the familiar mansion vanished from sight. At the hotel, I checked in with a fake ID I'd prepared earlier. After locking the door, I immediately pulled out my phone to call Carly, my only trusted friend. But even with full signal bars, I couldn't make a single call. The automated voice kept repeating, "No service available." Panic surged through me as I patted my neck, suddenly remembering the silver necklace. I tore it off and slammed it on the desk. Within 3 minutes, my phone sprang to life, lighting up with unread messages. I'd been tracked the entire time. That necklace wasn't just a ghost marriage token, it was a GPS tracker. When Carly answered, I burst into tears, rambling incoherently about everything. Lila, stay put, don't move. I'm on my way right now, she said, her calm voice a lifeline amid my hysteria. An hour later, there was a knock at my door. Carly stepped in, carrying a laptop and a stack of papers, her face grave. I looked into Ethan's case, she said. The news called it an accident, but a police contact sent me the original report. It says, suspicious circumstances, homicide cannot be ruled out. And Marcus? He's not just an importer-exporter. He's deep in bed with the local mob. Ethan's death might be tied to that. She paused, handing me a slip of paper. I also found out the Venturas visited a feng shui master in Chinatown, Mr. Chen. He's known for arranging ghost marriages. He might have answers. On Sunday afternoon, we tracked down Mr. Chen's studio, a rundown two-story building with a wooden sign reading, Chen's Feng Shui. Inside, the air was thick with sandalwood, and the walls were lined with compasses and talismans. Mr. Chen sat in a wooden armchair, his hair gray, his eyes sharp behind reading glasses as if he could see straight through me. What brings you here? Mr. Chen, I'm Lila Ventura, I said, bowing deeply and holding out a copy of the contract. 20 years ago, you arranged a ghost marriage for the Venturas. They adopted me to be Ethan's bride, didn't you? He stared at the contract in silence, then sighed heavily. Since you already know, I'll tell you the truth. Marcus came to me, claiming Ethan had appeared to him in a dream, saying only a bride with a compatible birth chart could calm his spirit and restore the family's fortune. What about me? I cried, my voice cracking. Am I just a sacrifice to them? Your birth chart isn't just compatible with Ethan's, it's husband augmenting, he said, his tone somber. The ghost marriage would have given him peace and brought the Venturas prosperity. But for you, the cost is great, you'd share your lifespan with him, and you'd never be able to marry or have children. If you did, the curse would strike, sudden death. The room spun. I collapsed into Carly's arms, barely able to stand. They hadn't just wanted me as a ghost bride, they'd planned to steal my life and my future, trapping me in this sick charade forever. One more thing, Mr. Chen added. Ethan wasn't Alana's biological son, he was Marcus's child from a previous marriage. Alana resented him, thought he stole Marcus's love and stood in the way of her inheritance. When I calculated their fortunes back then, Ethan's death felt off. I suspect Alana had something to do with it. Just then, my phone rang, an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Lila, my sweet girl, where are you? Alana's voice was sickeningly soft, laced with menace. Daddy's back from his trip. We miss you, come home. You lied to me for 20 years. I screamed. You're not my parents, you're monsters who bought me to marry a ghost. Monsters? Alana laughed coldly. We raised you, gave you a wonderful life. You should be grateful. Without us, you'd have died in a Guatemalan slum. I don't want your wonderful life. I roared. Did you kill Ethan? Did you murder him for your stupid fortune? Silence hung on the line. Then Marcus's deep, threatening voice came through. Lila, stop being foolish. You are Ethan's wife, this is your destiny. Come home, and we can go back to how things were. Refuse, and the consequences will be worse than death. The consequences? I sneered, tears streaming down my face. I know everything now. Your game is over. Is it? Marcus chuckled cruelly. We found you once. We'll find you again. Remember, your fate is bound to Ethan's. Betray him, and the curse will destroy you. I hung up, my body icy. I knew he wasn't bluffing. With Marcus's mob connections, they'd hunt me down without mercy. What do we do? Carly asked, her face pale. We find proof, I said, squeezing my fists so tight my nails dug into my palms. Proof that Ilana killed Ethan. Then we put them away for good. That evening, we drove to the Willamette River. Ethan's drowning had happened at a shallow beach downstream, where reeds swayed in the wind and the setting sun dyed the water a blood-red hue. As I knelt to touch the cold current, fragments of a vision flashed through my mind, a boy struggling in the water, a woman in a beige coat standing on the bank, holding rope and pills. It was Ilana. I shouted. She drugged him, strangled him, and dumped his body. Near the reeds, my heel caught on something metal half buried in the sand. It was a football wristband clasp engraved with E.V. Ethan Ventura, tangled in rotting rope. Carly had just slipped it into an evidence bag when the roar of car engines shattered the silence. Two blinding headlights cut through the dark, Marcus and Ilana, flanked by four black-clad men. Run! Carly grabbed my hand, and we sprinted toward her car. The pain in my ankle was excruciating, but I didn't dare slow down. If they caught me, I'd never escape. Carly slammed on the gas as soon as we were inside. Marcus's car chased us relentlessly, his driving ruthless. He rammed our rear bumper twice, jolting us so hard I thought my teeth would rattle loose. Hold on. Carly gritted her teeth, swerving sharply around a semi-truck. Marcus's car couldn't react in time, slamming into a guardrail with a deafening crash. We accelerated, heading west toward Seattle, not daring to stop until we crossed the state line. At a small-town motel, Carly sent the wristband for forensic testing. The results were damning. The rope tested positive for potent sleeping pills, and Ilana's DNA was all over it, matching the sample the police had on file from the Venturas. I called Mr. Chen to ask how to break the ghost marriage. You must destroy the contract and relics at Ethan's grave, he said. Only then can his spirit rest. Meet me at Evergreen Cemetery at midnight, they'll be there, trying to stop you. Carly and I split up. She took the evidence to the Seattle Police Department, while I disguised myself and snuck back to Portland. Midnight at Evergreen Cemetery was eerily quiet. Ethan's tombstone was simple, unadorned. Mr. Chen waited with talismans, wormwood, and a bronze sword. I pulled out the contract and the brocade box's contents. We'd barely begun the ritual when headlights flooded the cemetery, Marcus and Ilana, leading their men toward us. You can't run forever. Marcus roared, his face twisted with rage. Ilana brandished a dagger, her eyes wild. Finish the ceremony, or I'll kill you right here. Mr. Chen stepped forward, wielding a peachwood sword. He fought fiercely, but he was outnumbered. Marcus tackled him to the ground, kicking him hard in the ribs. Ilana grabbed my wrist, pressing the dagger to my throat, sharp steel piercing my skin, warm blood trickling down my neck. Do it, she shrieked. I closed my eyes, whispering to the tombstone, Ethan, help me end this. Help me make them pay for what they did. Suddenly, the candles flared violently. A frigid wind swept through the cemetery, howling like 1,000 voices. Ilana screamed, dropping the dagger and clutching her head. Ethan! I didn't mean to kill you. It was an accident. Marcus stumbled back, swinging his fists at thin air, yelling at invisible phantoms. His men scattered, fleeing in terror. Mr. Chen scrambled to his feet, slashing the contract with the peachwood sword. The paper burst into flames, along with the hair, ring, and photo, burning to ashes in seconds. The heavy, suffocating weight on my chest lifted. The mark from the silver necklace faded from my neck. The ghost marriage was broken. Sirens wailed in the distance. Carly arrived with Seattle police, who swarmed the cemetery, arresting Marcus and Ilana on the spot. During a subsequent search of their mansion, police uncovered Ilana's receipt for potent sleeping pills, a blood-stained length of rope hidden in the attic, and Marcus's mob ledgers detailing drug trafficking and weapons deals. In the end, Ilana was sentenced to life in prison without parole for first-degree murder. Marcus received 20 years behind bars for conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and racketeering charges linked to his organized crime ties. The scandal sent shockwaves through Portland. The Oregon Department of Human Services immediately tightened regulations on international adoptions, implementing stricter background checks and oversight to prevent predatory adoptions, like mine, from ever happening again. Mr. Chen, moved by my ordeal, offered to help locate my biological family in Guatemala. After weeks of research and coordination, he found them. My parents had been forced to abandon me during the country's civil war, but they'd never stopped searching for their missing daughter. 3 months later, I stood on Guatemalan soil, embracing my birth parents for the first time. They named me Sophia, a name meaning wisdom and peace, a stark contrast to the chaos and deception of my past. For the first time in my life, I felt true belonging, no lies, no hidden agendas, just unconditional love. Carly's investigative reporting on the Venturas crimes earned her journalism's highest honor. She became a voice for victims of systemic failures in the adoption system, and we remained inseparable, bound not just by friendship, but by the shared trauma of fighting for justice. Now, I live in the warmth of Guatemala's sun, surrounded by the laughter of my real family. The 20-year nightmare of being a prisoner in a perfect home is over. I've reclaimed my identity, my freedom, and my right to a future of my own choosing. The ghost marriage is broken, the murderers are behind bars, and the truth has been laid bare. But sometimes, when the wind blows softly through the windows at night, I swear I hear a faint whisper, like a boy's gentle voice, thanking me. And in the palm of my hand, I still carry the faint scar from Ilana's dagger, a reminder of the darkness I survived. I know Ethan's spirit has finally found peace, and so have I. I am no longer Lila Ventura, the ghost bride-to-be. I am Sophia, a survivor. And I will never let anyone else define my fate again.